Oh, uh, and now I will hand the meeting over to Chair Boatright.
All right. Good morning. Or sorry, good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm calling this public meeting to order at 4:38 p.m. in accordance with the Building Emissions Reduction and Disclosure Ordinance regulations adopted pursuant to the Building Emissions Reduction and Disclosure Ordinance, Boston City Code, Ordinances Section 7-2.2. The BERDO Review Board will hold a virtual public meeting at 4:30 p.m. on October 4th to review the following topics in regards to the reduction of greenhouse gases from building energy production and consumption so as to promote the public health and welfare of Boston residents. In accordance with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, we are conducting this public meeting online. To ensure public access to the deliberations of the BERDO Review Board, the public may access this call through telephone and video conferencing. Members of the public will have an opportunity to ask questions and provide public comment. To do so, please raise your hand or type in the chat in the application via the Zoom meeting platform. If you're calling in and cannot use the platform, you can raise your hand by pressing *9 and your questions to staff or email your questions to staff via email at BERDOReviewBoard@boston.gov. For the record, I'm Jessica Boatright, chair of the board, and I will now conduct a roll call of board members. Board members, please say your name in the order that they appear on the slide.
Stephen Ellis.
Hassan Faruqi.
Gail Lattimore.
Reginald Stovall.
Great. And now staff will introduce themselves.
Hannah Payne, Director of Carbon Neutrality.
Diana Vasquez, BERDO Review Board Manager.
Ziggy Chen, BERDO Review Board Assistant.
Great. All right, so here's the agenda for today's meeting. We're going to start with a vote for 2 Pathway 1 building portfolio applications. Then we will switch to our public hearing where we will start with Harvard University's hearing for its building portfolio. Afterwards, we'll have a discussion and vote on the Equitable Emissions Investment Fund Awards for the 2025 application cycle. Then we will approve the meeting minutes from the last meeting and hear administrative updates. Finally, we will adjourn the meeting. So we're going to move on, I believe in the order that we had things originally scheduled. Just looking for a nod of confirmation. Okay. As chair, I need to recuse myself from the agenda item that is Nuestra CDC's application. So I'm going to appoint Stephen Ellis to serve as chair pro tem and preside over this application while I'm recusing myself. Are there any objections from other board members regarding board member Ellis's appointment? All right, I am going to hand the meeting over to Stephen.
Thank you, Chair Boatright.
Sorry, I was going to
Everything
say.
all right?
Yeah,
Go ahead, Diana.
We have Tufts Medical Center going first, which I think.
Oh, that's what I was asking. Or do we switch it? Okay. Never mind. I'm back.
We'll
I'm
start
going
with
to appoint
Tufts.
Stephen after our Tufts discussion.
Sounds good.
All right. So I will turn over to the Environment Department for staff comments.
Hi, Chair. I'll do Tufts Medical Center. So Tufts Medical Center was submitted through Pathway 1. It was for 5 buildings in the neighborhoods of Chinatown and downtown. The applicant met all eligibility criteria and the application was deemed complete. And these are the standard conditions that apply to all Pathway 1 applications. So their building use types are healthcare, office, and technology and science. Again, those 5 buildings, and these are the addresses for those buildings. 3 of those buildings are the primary use type of healthcare, 1 of office, and 1 of technology and science. So all those together gives them their blended emissions standard of 15.1, 9.7, 7.2, 4.8, 2.3, and 0. And for staff comments, the application was deemed incomplete after initial review. 4 buildings had pending revision status for the 2024 reporting year, and then 1 building had a different GFA or building use that was than what was previously reported to BERDO in their application. The city team worked closely with the applicant to resolve the pending revision issues and the updated GFA for that building. So all buildings are now in compliance for reporting and third-party verification, and all information provided was verified to be accurate to the best of staff's knowledge. And thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Before I ask each board member if they have any questions or comments, I want to give an opportunity for any representative of this application to introduce themselves for the record.
Hey, good afternoon. My name is Matthew Keith with Bridge Energy Services. We're Tufts Medical Center's energy consulting partner that supported in the application.
Great, thank you. Anyone else?
I'm also
Great.
joined by my colleague, Rebecca Toomey. We had shared the invitation with members of Tufts Medical Center, but I don't see anybody in attendance at the moment from Tufts.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. All right, and I will now pass it around to the board members to ask any questions. Just a reminder that that staff has, brought this because they feel that it's satisfied the requirements for pathway 1, and but of course we want to make time for any questions that board members have. I'm gonna pass on this one and pass it off to start with board member Ellis.
Thank you, Chair. So Matthew and Rebecca, thank you for joining us today. Just a quick question regarding how these buildings are connected or how they're set up on their energy system. And to give you context, depending on your answer, I have a question about the office building being included in your portfolio. So can you give us a general understanding of how these buildings are powered? Is it a campus level or coming from a steam meter and so on and so forth? And if you're speaking, Matthew, you are muted.
I just unmuted. Thanks for the question. Ultimately, that was the crux of what took us so long to get through the early part of the application process. These buildings receive a mixture of electricity, gas, steam, and water. Some of the buildings and parcels have their own independent meters, and other buildings actually share accounts and share meters. And ultimately, with the reporting, was we had taken 4 out of these 5 buildings and rolled them into a separate campus application, just because the actual usage off of some of these accounts can't be ascertained, how much steam is going to one building versus another because it's a shared account. So ultimately, this building application is a combination of one standalone building and the remaining campus application, which was approved.
Got it. Zig, do you mind going back to the slide with the blended emissions, please? Thank you. So main reason I was asking is simply for the matter that I do worry for you all about your blended emission, given that the office unit itself or of the building is bringing down your overall blended emission standard. And so I just wanted some sort of confirmation that you feel like this will best work for your needs at Tufts. More so, from what I'm hearing, it sounds like potentially the office is also part of that mix of buildings that are on a shared meter, so to speak. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're confident that the overall building portfolio application is beneficial to their long-term reporting obligations. Ultimately, the square footage associated with the office spaces is much smaller than the medical and lab spaces. So, I think ultimately the ease of having a consolidated portfolio and a single emissions target, the simplicity is valuable to Tufts.
Okay, Thank you, Matthew. I appreciate your response. I'll turn it back over to you, Chair.
Thank you. Board Member Faruqi.
Thank you. Matthew and Rebecca, thank you for being here. What challenges do you anticipate that Tufts Medical Center will have to go through in terms of their compliance long-term here?
Well, in the immediate future, they figure to be underneath the overall building portfolio threshold if approved. And assuming that their current usage and consumption stays consistent going forward, we're not anticipating that they'll exceed the that building portfolio threshold until 2035. So they've got a little bit of time before they have to evaluate strategies to reduce their non-electric emissions. Fortunately, they don't use very much natural gas. It's primarily steam. And obviously, they've been in discussions with Vicinity about the products that they have and, you know, the ways to reduce the emissions for steam purchases.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. And then second, in terms of the construction and renovations that may be associated with compliance here, are you able to share any more information about any contractor hiring policies that Tufts Medical Center may have, or any collective bargaining agreements that they may have relevant to this?
Yeah, and I may ultimately need to follow up with you to get you some more substantial information, but you know, given our experience with other clients going through this process earlier in the year, I figured that you would ask about that. They did give us a, you know, a statement on their equitable hiring practices. Generally speaking, you know, they have programs within local schools to create career pathways. They've got well-published and, you know, transparent career development goals, you know, in order to have all of their employees have that opportunity for career advancement. So, like I said, they gave us a, you know, a brief statement, which I'm happy to email to you separately and the rest of the board members. But if you're looking for something a little more comprehensive, then I'm happy to put you in touch with my contact from TMC.
Excellent. Thanks so much. Yeah, I'm happy to take a look at the statement that you have. And that concludes my question. So thank you. And I'll turn it back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Board Member Lattimore.
Yes, thank you. Board Member Faruqi asked the questions that I was interested in. So yes, I would very much be interested in seeing that informational piece that you mentioned. So thank you for sending it to the board. I have no other questions or comments.
Of course.
Thank you. Board Member Stovall. Right, I'm guessing I saw it. Board Member Stovall, I'm guessing
I'm
that
here. I'm
okay,
sorry. I'm
okay,
on
it's
my
okay.
phone. I'm usually on a bigger screen.
It's okay.
And I apologize for that. The only question I had to ask basically was what's going to change between now and 2035? I understand you said that if you have to do a reevaluation, you may have to do a reevaluation. I'm just hoping that at that point in time you would have been able to start reducing instead of worrying about having to do a drastic change. That's where you kind of lost me. That was the question I had. You had mentioned 2035.
I'm sorry, Board Member Stovall. I guess I don't fully follow. The statement that I had made earlier, I had said if TMC's electric usage, steam usage, and gas usage stays the same year over year, 2035 is the first year that their current usage profile would exceed the building portfolio target. So
Yeah.
I don't know that there are substantial changes needed until then.
But if there are, you would come back and revisit and try to, I mean, at this point in time, you know, and this is what I see personally. I just would think at that point in time, when you reach that at 2035, there would be enough new technology to keep you from going over that threshold. That's what I was wondering why
Yeah.
was you throwing out that particular date? That's all.
I understand. Ultimately, compliance in 2035, or should they go over sooner, would not be an issue. You know, whether they pursue, a New England ISO solar PPA, whether they purchase RECs or one of the other approved compliance mechanisms for electric emissions, they would be able to execute on that. I think the reason that they haven't necessarily done it yet is it's a little bit difficult to forecast and contract something like that 10 years in advance. So at least for the next 5 years, from 2025 to 2029, they appear to be safely below the threshold. 2030 is the first year that they get close to the threshold. Obviously, that's the first time that it drops down. So I think as we get closer to 2030, there will be an evaluation of, has TMC's usage profile changed over the last 5 years? Do we expect that they'll be over or under that threshold? And obviously, if they're anticipating that they're going to be over, then I'm sure they'll start working on one of those compliance mechanisms to make sure that their electric emissions is below the threshold. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it does, and thank you very much. That was exactly what I was looking for. All right, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Are there any remaining questions from the board members?
Motion to approve Tufts Medical Center's application.
Second.
Great. On the motion to approve Tufts Medical Center's application with standard conditions, I'm just going to go around and take roll call of the vote. In favor, opposed, or abstain. I vote in favor. Board Member Ellis.
In favor.
Board Member Faruqi.
In favor.
Board Member Lattimore.
In favor.
Board Member Stovall.
In favor.
Great. The ayes have it. The motion passes. Tufts Medical Center's building portfolio has been approved per the regulation. The Environment Department will send a copy of the written decision letter within 7 days. Now, I'm going to recuse myself and appoint Stephen Ellis to serve as chair pro tem and preside over the next application while I'm recused. Are there any objections from other board members regarding the appointment? All right, I will hand it over to Stephen.
Thank you. We will now hear some information about a building portfolio application. Oh, excuse me. Yes, the Nuestra Comunidad Development Corporation building portfolio application. So, Ziggy.
Thank you, Chair. Oh, there. So there's CDC was also submitted through Pathway 1, and this includes 20 buildings in neighborhoods of Roxbury, Dorchester, and Mattapan. The applicant met all eligibility criteria, and the application was deemed complete, and the same standard conditions that apply to all Pathway 1s are below. So this is the first part of their buildings and their BERDO IDs and the addresses. And this is the second part. So the building uses were multifamily, retail, and storage. All buildings had a primary building use type of multifamily, but since they have some GFA to retail and storage, that's why their blended emissions is not completely like the multifamily. So their blended emission standard is 4.3, 2.5, 1.9, 1.1, and 0.6. And for staff comments, this application is also deemed incomplete after initial review. One building had missing reporting data for the years of 2022 and 2023, and then 10 buildings had a GFA or building use that did not match what was previously reported to BERDO in their application. The city worked with the applicant's previous reporter to get the missing reported data, and the applicant and the city worked together to resolve the GFA discrepancies. All buildings now are in compliance with reporting and verification, and all the information is accurate to the best of staff knowledge. And the staff recommends approving with standard conditions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ziggy. Before I ask each board member if they have any questions, I want to give an opportunity for any representative of this application to introduce themselves for the record.
Hi, this is Radisha, and I'm representing Nustra Corp. I was their energy consultant for making this application.
Welcome, Riddy. Anyone else? Okay. So now I will turn it over to questions. I will start, and one thing I just want to confirm with the staff. I was looking at their application packet, and Ziggy, can you go back to the slide on their emissions, the blended emission standard? Just want to call out that what I'm seeing in their file, the blended emission differs than what's on the slide here. So maybe as we go through other questions, if you can just confirm, I did hear you say some updates to the GFA. However, I'm seeing the blended emissions be matching the multifamily housing inside of that folder. So if you can just confirm that so that we are all squared away. I won't wait for you to answer that right now, but after we go through a round with the boards, I look forward to hearing your response. All right, so I'll actually go in reverse order and start with Board Member Stovall. Do you have any questions?
No, I'm just trying to figure out why like you said something about the 3 families. They just look like they almost stayed the same. Maybe I'm looking at it wrong.
Okay, thank you, Board Member Stovall. Board Member Lattimore?
The only question I have is if the representative really could clarify which of the properties is storage, used for storage, and what can you give any detail on that storage use? Like, how many square feet and just where it is.
Yes. Sec. So the storage use is more like a maintenance shop that we have on site.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why it is classified as a storage use.
Is it within one of the buildings, one of the affordable housing developments?
Yes, one of the housing buildings.
Oh, so it's a maintenance shop. Okay,
Yes.
got it. Thank you. No other questions.
Thank you, Board Member Lattimore. Board Member Fruit.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Riddy, for the work on this. What compliance challenges do you anticipate the applicant will face on this long term?
So going forward, I think currently we are looking to do retrofits on site. So we're looking for funding. We are looking at lean app program, as well as for a new construction, we are looking to meet LEED standards. So higher construction cost, but that's something that we are looking to work through LIHTC and refinancing opportunities.
Okay, excellent. And to the extent that can you share any plans that the applicant has in engaging with their tenants about Boston Community Choice Electricity as time goes on in this?
That is something that I will have to get back on. I am not aware of that. Currently, they are actively working on upgrading the lighting fixtures and upgrading the boiler system. But regarding the resident engagement, I will get back on that.
Sounds great. Okay. Thank you so much. No further questions. I'll yield back to the chair.
Thank you, Board Member Faruqi. We'll now turn it over to the city if they've had a moment to take a look at the materials that were provided.
Yeah, Chair Ellis, you're correct. I'm sorry, my mistake. Yeah, but they should have a blended emission that directly is met the family. So 4.1, 2.4, 1.8, 1.1, and 0.6.
Okay, so the slide as stand is just going to be updated to 4.1 and basically all those numbers that you just mentioned. All right, thank you very much. And Riddy, do you foresee any issues? I don't think there's any issues here. This is a rather straightforward application in my opinion, but with that blended emission being lowered back to basically the multifamily level, do you foresee any issues with your application?
No, I think that is fine.
Okay, thank you very much. With that being said, is there a motion to approve Nuestra CDC's application with standard conditions?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
On the motion to approve Nuestra CDC's application with standard conditions, I will say that I vote in favor. How do you vote, Board Member Faruqi?
In favor?
Board Member Lattimore?
In favor.
And Board Member Stovall?
In favor.
The motion passes. Nuestra CDC building portfolio has been approved. Per the regulations, the Environment Department will send a copy of the written decision letter within 7 days. Thank you, Riddy, for joining us today.
Thank you.
Will the Environment Department invite Chair Boatwright back to the meeting?
Yes, I am inviting her now. Thank you, Board Member Ellis, for pointing out our slide. We will make that correction before posting.
No problem. I'm having too much materials open all the time for some reason, but it is what it is.
Yes, and we just messaged Chair Boatwright to join back. Perhaps while she is rejoining,
I can continue it if it'll be easier for you.
I think so, maybe until
Okay.
she joins back.
Not a problem. We will now switch to our public hearing. I am calling this public hearing to order at 5:04 p.m. I'll hand it to the Environment Department for a quick review.
Awesome, thank you. Just a quick review and reminder of where we are with Harvard's application. So Harvard submitted a building portfolio application via Pathway 2, and then the review board voted to have a hearing at a public meeting on August 11th. And just as a reminder again of what the Pathway 2 requirements are. So if your building portfolio triggers the need to apply via Pathway 2, you are required to submit maps visualizing your building portfolio with different relevant environmental justice layers. You're required to include a narrative describing sort of the initial thinking around building decarbonization and sort of BERDO compliance by the owner. And then finally, there's a commitment to submit an emission standard compliance plan within 2 years of the portfolio's approval and provide an annual progress report on said plan. And things that are included in the plan, are any updates of the maps that are submitted, narrative descriptions of how you plan to prioritize the different benefits that are associated with BERDO compliance, and a narrative description of any sort of compliance efforts that are expected to happen over the next 2 cycles or, over the next 10 years. So just as a reminder, I know we have a lot of different pathways that require a lot of different things. So this is what's required under Pathway 2. And I think I saw Chair Boatwright rejoin.
Hi.
Awesome. Great. So that was it for me. And then I'll hand it back to Chair Boatwright to introduce our applicant today.
Great. Great. So I'll now hand the floor over to representatives from Harvard University. If you could introduce yourselves and start the presentation.
I'll start for us. I'm Heather Hendrickson. I'm Harvard University's Chief Sustainability Officer. I'm also the Managing Director of our Office for Sustainability. I'm just going to put this on. Hopefully that will improve you being able to hear me. I'm also joined by 2 colleagues who will introduce themselves when they begin to speak as well. Can you hear me? Good. Great. And I think actually, Ziggy, you can help me advance the slides. So we'll start with the next. This is our outline for today to talk about our action to date, our building portfolio in this application, and then how we're making progress on our climate objectives. Next slide, please. So you can keep going. So just a brief overview to say that we do have a university-wide sustainability action plan. It is our vision and framework, and has all of our goals, and it is really organized around 4 major priorities: how we power, how we build, how we operate, and how we lead. So I will touch on these briefly. Next slide. So what does a sustainability action plan mean? To make it a little bit hopefully clearer, these are some highlights. It really breaks down in particular to our goals, which we'll talk a bunch about related to our climate goals. And it also has our policies. We have policies around or standards around building, around cleaning, landscaping, IT, and the like, basically all our operational priorities. And then also collaborations. So deep collaborations with our faculty and students, and then also with partners across the university for our zero waste goals and vehicle electrification and resilience as some examples. Next slide. So these are our climate action goals that were set at the beginning of February, in February 2018. They are to be fossil fuel free, so 0 fossil fuels in our buildings or our vehicle fleet by 2050, and then neutral by 2026 as a bridging strategy to meet those goals. We also have 2 targets. Most important for today, I think the embodied carbon reduction in our capital projects, but also food emissions reduction targets as well. Next slide. So how are we doing? Since our 2006 base year, we're 32% completely reduced in our greenhouse gas emissions, and it would be 40% if we didn't factor in growth. So of course we are factoring in our growth, but wanted to show you the amount of emissions reductions that have happened since 2006. Next slide. We announced at the end of last calendar year a brand new consortium for climate solutions. It's a first of its kind renewable energy collaboration that was led by Harvard, MIT, Mass General Brigham, and Power Options. It really was to provide brand new, large utility scale virtual power purchasing agreements that typically wouldn't be available to individual buyers, and certainly not to the nonprofits that are also 8 major nonprofits who are benefiting from this project. It's actually 2 large-scale utility grade renewable energy projects, 1 solar, 1 wind. It's equivalent to about 130,000 homes electricity annually, about 1 million metric tons of avoided greenhouse gas emissions. And for Harvard, when you combine that with our New England renewable purchases, it is effectively 100% of our purchased electricity is coming from these VPPAs. Next slide. We also have growing amount of solar photovoltaics, or PV. That's why everyone says PV. About 2.8 megawatts in Boston, and more coming, as you'll see, in 2026. Next slide. I touched on the fact that we have had sustainable building standards since 2009, very shortly after our office was created. And we have continuously upgraded these standards over time. They started to be LEED Gold in 2009, and our largest update actually happened last year. It is to be Living Building Challenge Core certified for our major projects, and it also included expanded priorities, which we'll talk about from Harvard's Healthier Building Academy. Next slide, please. Just as a sort of scorecard, these building standards have really helped us achieve certifications in holistic certifications. So we have 40 LEED certifications so far, and 70% of those in Boston are gold or platinum level certifications. Next slide. So these new standards, again, that I mentioned, are targeting the very ambitious Living Building Challenge Core certification and Harvard Healthier Building Academy. Just to explain, these are very holistic requirements They're performance-based and they're net positive. So not just reductions, but doing sort of better regenerative goals. And I think one of the distinctions about it is you can see under the Living Building Challenge, these 10 imperatives, energy and carbon reduction, healthier and interior environments, responsible, universal access, responsible water use. You have to achieve targets in each one of these 10. It's not a pick as you go menu of I'll do some, but not others. You have to do things in each of the 10. And it is even a bit beyond the energy code in the state of Massachusetts. So they're quite aggressive targets in each of the 10 imperatives. On top of that, we also have some requirements that we've really worked with our faculty on around health. So healthier materials from building materials without toxic chemicals in them, better indoor air quality, access to daylight, things like this. So those are our new standards. Next slide. And then I'll just mention the fact that I think you're familiar, but we did conduct a tree inventory in Boston. We have over 2,500 trees and representing 100 species. And we have, since 2013, actually increased our trees by 700, a 28% increase. And our planning efforts are consistent with the goals of the Boston Urban Forest Plan. And Harvard has implemented a long-term strategy for the management of its tree resources. We're actually currently working with the University of Vermont Spatial Analysis Lab to conduct a tree canopy analysis of the Alston campus. And this analysis will provide a benchmark for understanding changes to the tree canopy and offer maps, data, and metrics on which to base future goals and policy initiatives related to canopy coverage. With that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Peter Joseph Kelly, for the next few slides. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Peter Kelly Joseph. I'm a Senior Program Manager of Clean Air Compliance Programs in Harvard Environmental Health and Safety. I'm going to provide an overview of Harvard's proposed portfolio and answer any questions the review board may have. Ziggy, next slide, please. All right. As an overview, Harvard owns buildings in 3 Boston neighborhoods: Allston, Longwood in the Fenway, and Jamaica Plain. Next slide, please. All right. This slide shows all Harvard's own buildings in Allston. Next slide, please. This slide shows Harvard's buildings in the proposed BERDO portfolio. Buildings not included in a portfolio are excluded due to BERDO regulatory guidance, including above-ground parking garages. Some buildings are smaller than BERDO size threshold. New construction that will be included in future portfolio adjustments. Next slide, please. This is a similar slide for Harvard's own buildings in Longwood and the Fenway. Next slide, please. And this slide shows the proposed portfolio, and in Longwood Fenway excludes 2 buildings from the proposed portfolio. Next slide, please. And finally, this slide shows Harvard's buildings in Jamaica Plain, and these are primarily at the Arnold Arboretum. Next slide, please, and the excluded buildings as well. I'm going to turn the presentation back over to Heather to discuss how Harvard is making progress now. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. So I was just, before Peter stepped in, talking about our building standards. Next slide, please. So now I'm going to talk to you about how these standards come to life, because these brand new projects that are starting to open this fall in Boston are actually following these standards. So the David Rubenstein Treehouse Conference Center is pursuing these standards of Living Building Challenge Core and Harvard Healthier Building Academy. This is Harvard's first mass timber building. It has 0 fossil fuels on site, including an all-electric commercial kitchen, which is a first for us, and low energy design. It has a rooftop solar PV system as well. They can't see here, but is there. And also back to the embodied carbon, steel and concrete, as I believe you know, are the most energy intensive building materials. So here we replace that with the mass timber and also a healthier, low embodied carbon concrete. So we are targeting about a 60% reduction in embodied carbon in this project with the mass timber and the structural concrete. And again, the structural concrete, what makes it a healthier low embodied carbon concrete is it uses a recycled ground glass pozzolan to replace the cement. That, of course, is the carbon intensive part of concrete. And we believe that this is the first in Massachusetts in structural elements to be used of this ground glass pozzolan low embodied carbon concrete. So that's a little bit on that project. Next one, please. This is 100 South Campus Drive, and it is going to provide 276 new units of housing for Harvard and Harvard affiliates. The project has actually already achieved Passive House Institute design certification in 2024. It is targeting, in addition to Do Living Building Challenge Core and then Harvard's Healthier Building Academy goals, it too will have zero fossil fuels in the building, connecting to Harvard's low temperature hot water district energy facility and very low energy use intensity. This is one example here. The other thing I would just add, the project is also reducing embodied carbon through a lighter facade system with less material that has also reduced the structural and foundation materials need for support. So really trying to address carbon and embodied carbon in all of these projects. Next slide, please. Right next door is the Goel Center for Creativity and Performance, which is going to be the new home of the American Repertory Theater coming next year. Again, pursuing Harvard's building standards. It is an 85,000 square foot performing arts center. Again, zero fossil fuels in the building, also will connect to Harvard's low temperature hot water system. And, for performing arts center, we're told it has a very low energy use intensity, kind of breaking records. And the key strategy in the building is it's actually designed for natural ventilation when conditions allow, and it has a very efficient building envelope. Again, reduced embodied carbon with the use of cross-laminated mass timber in this structure, as you can very well see, or if you're going down North Harvard Street, you can see it now. And there is also reclaimed brick that is on the inside that is lowering the embodied carbon in this project. Next slide, please. So lest you think we're only focused on the new buildings, here's a great example of existing buildings. And we are doing major gut and renovations on two very large dorms, as well as an office building over at HBS. And these projects are not only striving to hit LEED and Living Building Challenge, but they're replacing windows with highly efficient glazing, increasing the wall insulation for a higher performance envelope, coupled with low temperature hot water systems design for low energy and a fossil fuel free future. So they are really trying to cut the energy even further and be ready for low temperature hot water. Next slide. Also wanted to just touch on our medical school campus. Our historic quad, which you can see there, is actually going through a multi-phase building envelope project that's nearing its end. Of the 5 buildings that are involved, 3 have completed the restorations of their marble facades. Goldenson is under construction now, and Armenice is in design. But not only have they taken great care to repair and fortify the facade, they really are also replacing the windows with triple glazing and adding insulation to really make the buildings more energy efficient as well as safe. So that is a big, and I would say the medical schools also has a multi-year strategy where they are continuing to do just more energy efficiency, heat recovery. They have it on a loop. It is, a big priority here and across our campuses in Boston. Next slide. So I think I was asked last time, and I have touched a little bit on our district energy facility, which is located in Alston. It is a lower carbon climate resilient system completed in 2019. It produces low temperature hot water, chilled water, and electricity. It also has a 1.3 million gallon thermal storage tank for storing chilled water. And what that means is it allows chilled water to be produced and stored during off-peak hours when electricity is less polluting. It can then be used, that electricity, during peak energy use times, which reduces the grid load. So this is an efficiency measure that is built into this project. They also, as a side note, won a People's Choice Award from the Boston Society Architects earlier this year, rather. So next slide. Our electric shuttle buses, you've probably seen them around in vehicles. A third of our shuttle buses are now all electric. The first ones rolled out in 2021. In the last few years, Harvard has also purchased over 10 new EVs, including mail trucks, box trucks, vans, parking vehicles, and utility vehicles. We also have 55 level 2 EV charging stations, and about 2,300 people are riding our electric shuttle buses each week. These EV buses travel around almost 14,000 miles per year, and they're 73% more efficient than the diesel buses. Next slide. I also wanted to just make sure to touch again on our sort of two-pronged decarbonization strategy for buildings. One, we are really seizing opportunities in all of our current projects. So that means when we're replacing energy equipment or systems, we're working to decarbonize those or use lower temperature hot water. And we're also continuing, as I've mentioned multiple times, to prioritize opportunities for energy efficiency and energy recovery, as well as decarbonization. We also, as I've mentioned, are studying our longer-term planning for decarbonization. And we're very, very focused, of course, longer term, meaning not that long, 2035, of how do we hit our targets. For instance, in Boston, we're studying first our district energy options in Alston with the district energy facility already, a low carbon, low temperature hot water system. And we are looking at very, very aggressive looks at our buildings to change the energy supply away from fossil fuels. And as I mentioned, to identify additional energy recovery opportunities as well. Next slide. I will just mention that we're a very proud member of the Boston Green Ribbon Commission. Harvard actually was a founding chair of the Higher Ed Working Group and chaired that for 10 years. Now BU has that honor with Northeastern. And I think, the Higher Ed Working Group is really leveraging our capacity to not only work together, but also to reach out and work with other sectors, the hospitals, the commercial buildings as well, in support of the city meeting its climate goals. We're participating in subgroups like the Boston's Grid Modernization and other things. So I will stop there and then pass it to my colleague, Chris English.
Thanks, Heather. For the record, Chris English. I work in Harvard's Public Affairs Office. If you want to go to the next slide, please. So I wanted to take a moment to follow up on the board's questions from our public meeting in August. There was a desire from the board to learn more about our community engagement efforts within environmental justice communities. So the majority, over 95% of Harvard's buildings in our BERDO portfolio is an environmental justice population. So accordingly, all actions that we undertake to reduce emissions have direct environmental and public health benefits to these populations. We try to build community engagement into the fabric of our work. For all of our development projects, we go through at the state and local level, we work with the community. We voluntarily commit to using the city's language access protocol, ensuring that our information is provided in the primary languages spoken in our neighborhood. Fact sheets and projects specific information in English, Spanish, Chinese, Russian, Portuguese. And I think important to the work of this board, all of our development projects feature a sustainability component. In our latest IMP process, Harvard included an entire state sustainability chapter that governs our future development moving forward. Also important to note, over 200 acres of our land in Alston is currently vacant of people. But with the Alston multimodal project's focus on reconnecting communities, we have an incredible opportunity to not only address environmental justice concerns now, but the opportunity to plan for and develop for the people that will live and work in Beacon Park Yard in the future as it gets built out. Beyond our regulatory processes, we try to engage with the community in other ways. The Harvard Ed portal is a good example of how we create space for local community to come together. This arts programming, youth mentoring, career support, digital learning, community lectures, business workshops, and beyond are all offered to our local residents as a way of connecting Harvard to our neighbors. My office even holds monthly coffee hours in Alston as a way of giving our neighbors an opportunity to talk directly to the university about our ongoing work and a space to discuss their concerns. You want to go to the next slide, please? At our public meeting in August, you also asked about recurring themes that we've heard from the community through public feedback and comment. A good example of the feedback that we've gotten are the comments we received during our recent IMP process. So over the course of more than a year of review and engagement with the neighborhood and the city, we heard several themes of importance to our neighbors. Just included them on the slide there. I can go into more detail if you like, but also wanted to leave time Q&A. So finally, the board asked about more information for the MWBE contracting policies. At this time, the university does not have a specific MWBE contracting policy for capital improvement projects, but we currently comply with all of the applicable federal, state, and local regulations, including the Boston Residents Jobs Policy. So thanks for your time. Happy to take questions.
Thank you. Thanks for all the information and for adding in that response at the end to some of the discussion from last time. So I'll now ask the board if there are any questions or comments that they'd like to discuss. Before we start, I should note that if we are entertaining special conditions today, we will have to, am I in the right spot, right? We'll have to continue this application to a following hearing in order to review and discuss the special conditions with the applicant. Or we may make requests of the applicant for items we would like to see in their emission standards compliance plan when it is submitted in 2 years. As a reminder, requests for emission standards compliance plans are not considered special conditions. So before I go around with questions, I would just ask that that when the compliance plan is submitted, we will want to see performance against Boston Residents Jobs Policy and your engagement of MBE and WBE owned firms, as well as sort of an update on the community engagement piece as part of the narrative. And I will pass it on to Board Member Ellis.
Thank you, Chair.
Sorry. Sorry to interrupt. I think we had a staff comments that I can quickly.
You're right. I just like ran right over the staff comments. I apologize. I knew I skipped something.
No worries. I didn't want to. You were on a good flow, so I didn't want to interrupt. But
well, I wanted to put myself first. So now you've heard the chair comments. Now we can do staff comments.
No problem. Very quickly, just some staff comments. So staff reviewed the original application and deemed the initial application incomplete due to some questions around the campus configuration. We worked very closely with the Harvard team to ensure that we had the most accurate sort of setup in campus setup within Energy Star Portfolio Manager, which is the software that we use in addition to the BERDO reporting form. And so that is all completed and up to date to the best of staff's knowledge. Thank you, Peter, because we work very closely with Peter on that specifically. And just as a reminder, yeah, the review board voted to hold this hearing on August 11th, and staff recommend approving with standard conditions. And if there are any special requests, it sounds like we already heard one from the chair, sort of highlighting MBWE utilization plans with capital planning and any updates on community engagement trends or patterns.
Great, thank you. So now, taking all that in consideration, I will ask board members if there are additional questions or comments, and we'll start with board member Ellis.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Heather, Peter, and Chris, for your presentation today. I'll just add, Diana, that I also heard Chair Boatwright mention where they're at with the Boston's job policy as well to the emission standard compliance plan when the time comes. I think I appreciate the presentation and answering the questions. Last time, I believe, when we discussed, and maybe Heather can confirm this, it does seem like Harvard has already met their first threshold and are already, I see Heather nodding. Okay, I'll take that as a yes. And it seems that you are very much on your path to, meeting the compliance associated with the blended emissions compliance plan. One thing that I'm curious about is the additional buildings that are being added. So I'm assuming that these buildings will need to be added to the building portfolio in the future, sort of looking to Peter here. And you've already made plans for that and can see that you'll still be able to meet your emissions compliance plan given the net zero components of your buildings thus far. Is that correct?
Yep. I can say the BERDO staff has been very diligent in providing guidance in the BERDO guidance material about adding new buildings and all the associated regulations. So it seems like a straightforward process, and we look forward to doing it.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't think I have any other questions. Again, I appreciate the responses and the presentation, so I'll turn it back over to you, Chair.
Thank you. Board member Faruqi.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Heather, Peter, and Chris for all the work on this. I think it answers a lot of the questions we had last time around. So I also appreciate specifically, all of the measures that are outside the scope of this ordinance, but reduce the building temperatures and thereby the electrical load for air conditioning, which is really helpful. So, trees and embodied carbon, really, really good stuff. So thank you. I know we spoke last time about the medical area total energy plant. I know a few of the buildings in HMS and Chan are purchasing energy from that plant. Are you able to share any more information about conversations you may have had either with Engie, the plant operator, or with other MATEP customers about how that decarbonization of the plant can move forward?
Chris, do you want me to start? Or great. Yes, so I think everyone's aware that our Longwood campus, our medical school, our school of public health, and our dental medical school all have a long-term contract with MATEP through 2051. So we, Harvard, are definitely committed to meeting our BERDO goals and as I said, exploring our options across our entire portfolio in order to hit those targets. Thank you, Stephen, for reminding me to say, yes, we have met the 2025 targets already. We are in, I think, zeroing in well on 2030 and are really focused on 2035. I think everyone knows we don't own the MATEP plant. It is privately owned. We are its customers. And so I think, our approval of this application is a critical step to us meeting these long-term goals. And that is, and as I said, I think we're looking at a myriad of options, both at the district energy systems that we do own and operate, as well as all of our buildings in order to hit these targets.
Excellent. Thank you. Are there any other compliance challenges did you anticipate beyond MATEP as you reach 2050?
Uh, 2050 is a very different question than 2035.
Let's start with 2035 then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, you know, we are deep in it. We are right now, as I said, doing these very comprehensive engineering studies, both in our buildings and, you know, very seriously looking at them, not, you know, for additional energy efficiency, heat recovery, and to truly decarbonize them, every piece of equipment in the buildings. So we are committed to and very focused on that right now. And as I said, we are very much looking at the district energy facility in Alston, which is already low temperature hot water. And so, you know, that technology lends itself to decarbonization in somewhat easier manner. So we're looking at that this summer. I don't know if I shared last time, but we did do some test wells looking at ground source geothermal opportunities. You know, we don't have a lot of space in much of our campus, which is very urban, but where we do in Alston, that is exactly what we are looking at. We have done some of those test wells and are doing that analysis now. So, you know, I think that's what you'll see from us, you know, in our plan, in our compliance plan. We're focused on getting these studies done and having those plans for hitting the 2035 targets.
Okay, excellent. Thanks. And lastly, I'll just voice my support for the requests that Chair Boatwright made for the emissions compliance plan in 2 years. But appreciate you sharing more information about the contractor and workforce standards that you have, at least right now. And with that, no further questions. I'll yield back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Board Member Lattimore.
Thank you. Yes, it was a very thorough presentation. I appreciated it. And I also echo what Board Member Faruqi just said about what Chair Boatwright said. And so I'm also looking forward to those informational pieces. So thanks for the presentation. I just have a couple of broader questions about when I read the original application, it talked about the consortium. I assume that's Consortium for Climate Solutions. And Heather, you talked about, they showed that it was Harvard, MIT, I think it was Mass General Brigham, if I'm not mistaken,
Yes.
and three cultural nonprofits. I wondered who are those three cultural nonprofits? Just curious about that. If you know.
Yes, I do. Well, one, I know it is WGBH. I believe, hang on, just give me a sec. I have it here. It is Beth Israel Leahy, Boston Children's Hospital, Dana-Farber Cancer Institute, the Massachusetts Convention Center Authority, the Museum of Fine Arts. I think I already mentioned WGBH, and then also Tufts University joined us for a piece of it as well.
Thank you. And you also mentioned in the living building challenges, the core imperatives for the living building challenges. One was inclusion, an inclusion imperative. I wonder if you could say more about that and how and if that relates to how adjacent EJ communities and stakeholders and residents are educated and engaged in Harvard's sustainability work.
Yeah, I mean, I think our application in Boston were 95% of our neighborhoods are EJ. So I would say it's really our whole overarching strategy is to be focused on that. The Living Building Challenge does have a just label certification, which is included in this. And so we are meeting those requirements. You know, we do source a lot of materials locally, and from you know, where there are opportunities from women and minority-owned businesses. And, you know, they basically have just really allows, we require not only, we require people that work with us, like the architects or designers or contractors. Someone needs to actually have that certification. And so I think that's an extension of those folks that work with us are also working to meet that high standard in working with us. So it's focused on policies for employees. They have to do an assessment of their own company. So it's quite, if you look online, I think you can see, and we're also happy to very much to provide what that Just Label certification sort of entails of folks that work with us.
Now, I would very much appreciate getting more information about that Just Label and maybe perhaps add that to what the chair requested because it definitely relates. So I appreciate that. I also, when reading your original application, I think I saw a green revolving fund available, and I wondered if that fund was available. Was it just an internal Harvard fund, or is it broader than that?
It is an internal Harvard fund. Yes, it is
Okay.
really helped drive innovation on campus and energy efficiency, heat recovery, PV. It's been a very helpful tool, which the president and senior leadership have invested in. And I think we've done hundreds of projects on campus, and it really has cut our emissions and energy costs as well. So it's been a great tool. It is currently very much focused on electrification and supporting electrification projects. Of course, those, even one large electrification project could wipe out actually the fund, but it is, it's helping, and it is really, cuts that delta between replacing a fossil fuel boiler with a fossil fuel boiler versus electrifying that boiler at the time getting those fossil fuels out. So we're very grateful that we have that tool and it's being used across our campus.
Thank you. No other questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Stovall.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to echo what our chair was saying, and that's Ms. Boatright. Also, I was just interested in how the study comes out for the geothermal. That sounded kind of interesting. I hope you guys share that with us. And that's pretty much all I have to say. But again, I want to echo what Chair Boatright called to your attention.
Thank you. Are there any additional comments or questions from the board? All right. We'll now open the meeting to public comment. As a reminder to members of the public, to provide public comment, you can raise your hand using the Zoom function or type in the chat in the Zoom application. If you're calling in and cannot use Zoom, you can also raise your hand by pressing *9 or send your comments to staff via email at berdoreviewboard@boston.gov. And a reminder that that this is a comment, sort of a comment session. So if you have thoughts, if you could share them in that format, that would be great. Are there any comments? All right. Oh, Allison Poltonos.
Hi, this is Allison Poltonis from Mission Hill. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Oh, okay, thank you. My question is revolving around the medical school campus and the contract with the Maytep plant and whether Harvard University as a primary customer can influence the decarbonization process there with the plant and use their power as a primary customer to do that. I would hope that would be an ongoing effort. Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll take that as a comment for the applicant to sort of take into consideration. Are there any additional comments? Okay. Great. So if there's any further discussion or comments from the board, please let me know. Otherwise, if there is a motion regarding approving this application, we can entertain that now.
Motion to approve.
Great. Board Member Furkey.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Yeah, I just wanted to, I appreciate Ms. Poltonos's question and just wanted to make space if the applicant had any response to that immediately. I would turn it over to them.
Not at this time.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Great. So we have a motion on the floor to approve with standard conditions. I'll second the motion. And so on the and after we, I was thinking after we take the vote, it would be great to have staff repeat sort of the things that we want included in the report back in 2 years. Does that work? Okay, great.
Sounds great.
Well, all right.
Sorry,
Yeah.
can I actually just make a brief recommendation? I know we heard a few things for the report back, but I think the piece that Gail, you were asking about Living Building Challenge, I might recommend that we have that just be an email follow-up since it's fairly generic information about Living Building Challenge rather than waiting for the emissions standard compliance plan for that. So that's my recommendation of a friendly amendment.
Okay. Is the Harvard team okay with just sending some follow-up information about Living Building Challenge? Great.
Well, it was specific to the just piece that Heather mentioned, not broad. It wasn't broad about the living building. It was very specific, and it related to some of their as I understood it, related to some of what Chair Boatwright talked about, which is kind of the standards that they try to have everyone they do business kind of understand and speak to, if I understood that correctly. Maybe I didn't, but I think it's important that it's not just the general kind of piece. It's very specific, in my opinion, to the question that goes to, that aligns with what Chair Boatwright spoke to. So whatever way it's dealt with, I just want to make sure that we get it and that it's clear what it is that we're looking for.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so now I'm going to do a roll call on the vote, and then I'll ask Diana to just read back the additional follow-up and reporting things that we've asked for. So when I call your name, let me know how you vote: in favor, opposed, or abstain. I vote in favor. Is Board Member Ellis on the phone?
I'm here.
How do you vote?
In favor.
Great. Board Member Furkey?
In favor.
Board Member Lattimore?
In favor.
Board Member Stovall?
In favor.
All right, the ayes have it. The motion passes. Harvard University's building portfolio has been approved. Per the regulations, the Environment Department will send a copy of the written decision letter within 7 days, and I'm going to ask Diana to just read back the additional reporting requests that we've made.
Great, thank you, Chair. So I've written down that the review board is requesting that Harvard include in their emission standard compliance plan that will be submitted in 2 years to highlight any updates or policy regarding MBWE utilization, any updates or highlighting use of the Boston Jobs Policy, updates or highlights in trends related to community engagement with neighbors. And then I believe that is sort of covering the piece of the justice criteria in the Living Buildings Challenge that that Board Member Lattimore mentioned. I feel like that is everything I got, but I want to reflect that and see if the board has any addendums to that.
Are there any addendums? It sounds right to me. Okay, great. All right, thank you so much for the presentation and for participating and answering all of our questions. We are now going to move on to our next agenda item, which is a discussion vote about the Equitable Emissions Investment Fund Awards, and I will pass it over to Diana.
Great. Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Review Board. I know we put a lot in this agenda today, so I will try to keep us moving along. So just as a quick review, for this year, we received 22 applications in total. On September 8th, the Review Board voted on inviting 6 finalists to present to the board. On September 29th, those 6 finalists then did present on their proposed projects and answered some questions from Review Board members. And on the next slide, we should see a reminder of who those 6 finalists were. So they were Urban Edge Housing Corporation, Roxbury Tenants of Harvard, Alston Brighton Community Development Corporation, Boston Medical Center, Morville House Apartments, and Boys and Girls Club of Dorchester. Since their presentation, we reached out to each of the applicants just to give them an opportunity to update their budget spreadsheet. Some of those applicants, when they were presenting, had voiced that some of their financial budgets had shifted and changed, and so we asked all of them to provide us their most updated financial information. And then following that, we shared with each of the board members that update and asked each of the board members to send us their individual funding recommendation. Based on that, staff is recommending the following on the next slide. The staff is proposing that the board vote to award Alston Brighton Community Development Corporation $250,000, their full amount. Award Boston Medical Center $227,000, less than the amount that originally requested, but still a significant portion of it. Roxbury Tenants of Harvard, $150,000, their full amount requested, and then Boys and Girls Club of Dorchester, $123,000, slightly less than what they requested, but still a good chunk of it. So total $750,000, which is what the review board voted on, what the review board voted to approve or approved to release for this year's application round. We thought this was a good mixture of different types of projects. So some projects really having a deep energy retrofits, other projects investing in renewable energy and reducing patients or folks' utility costs, their electric bill costs. Other projects having a more mechanical upgrade type of work in the building. And we thought that was a really nice mix. This also helps, just based on some of the interest from last year, this helps ensure that most of the projects that are being worked on include buildings that are subject to BERDO, so helping those who are subject to BERDO to also comply with the ordinance. So yeah, that's our proposal, and I'm happy to take any board questions or help with discussion.
Thank you, Diana. I will now ask each board member if they have any questions or comments, and I want to echo sort of staff's recognition of all the work that that both board and really staff have put into getting us to this place right now. I know for myself, this feels challenging because there were a lot of really good applications and a lot of people with great ideas about how to further the goals of the emissions fund. I appreciate that in sort of spreading the funds in this way, we get to fulfill a couple of objectives that I think we set out as a board. One is to sort of focus on BERDO buildings, spread out a little bit between housing projects and non-housing projects, and stretch the dollars to hit 4 projects. So it's really hard to get it down to 4, but I think that the sort of slate represents a lot of the objectives that we were talking about. So So appreciate the work to get here, and I will hand it over to Board Member Ellis for any questions or comments.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Can you hear me well?
Yep.
Okay. I echo pretty much everything that you said, and appreciate the environment staff for, in consideration of the finances, looking at those two locations, the Boys and Girls Clubs and BMC, and getting at least 90% of their requested amount is something that I think is valuable, and making sure that we're distributing this. I will say it was also not easy deciding between all of the applicants in the process of trying to figure out, like, how do we make sure that we're approving different projects that are a mix of, energy and emission reduction projects and opportunity to learn from our community projects that are happening on a broad scale. One question that I have for the city is regarding specifically the BMC and the Boys and Girls Club. I know traditionally we like to reach out to those applicants to ask them if they would be comfortable or if there's any issues regarding the amount that we're recommending. And I want to know if there's been any responses to that we should be aware of.
Yes, good question. We did reach out to both of those applicants sort of in preparation and asked if they would still be interested if they received less than what they requested. They both responded yes, that they would still be interested in receiving the award, even if it was less than what they originally requested. Okay,
thank you, Diana. I have no further questions. I'm comfortable with the mix and pool of potential applicants that we have here today. Back to you, Chair.
Thank you. Thanks. Board Member Faruqi.
Thank you. I also want to thank the many staff in City Hall for all the work on this, and all of the applicants for submitting these very lengthy applications. I know this takes a lot of work, so I appreciate everyone putting forward these really wonderful projects. And I also want to voice my support as well for some of the finalists that I also was very impressed with, the Alston Brighton CDC, Boston Medical Center as well. I would be ordinarily hesitant to fund an institution through this, but I know that this program really does directly benefit a lot of residents who otherwise would not be able to be served. So it's a great program, and I appreciate Urban Edge as well for their mention of their the benefits to labor and workforce, which was not a common thing across all these applicants, but they and Alston Brighton CDC are doing some good work on that front, so I appreciate that a lot, and look forward to voting on these. Thank you, and I'll yield back to the chair.
Thank you. Board Member Lattimore.
Yeah, I also agree with all the comments about the work that went into this at both the city level and the board level, as well as the applicants. Lots of, diligence and work. I did wonder how the city's recommendation related to the board scoring of the 4. I mean, there were so many good applications. I just wondered, we all scored 4. For 4, right? I mean, we all not scored, but just gave our 4 recommendations. So just wondered, how aligned. I didn't hear that as one of the factors. I understand there were many factors, and I appreciate all those factors that you mentioned, Diana. Just wondering how the final recommendations from the city align with the 4 recommendations from each of the board members.
Yes, happy to chime in. I would say it's pretty aligned with what we heard from board members, with the sort of caveat that there were 3 board members who did recommend funding Urban Edge. So it sort of kind of came down to, I would say, BMC and Urban Edge. And I just to be transparent with the board, Urban Edge's project proposal were not in buildings that were subject to BERDO, so basically they were just smaller buildings. So, and there was, I think, just slightly more, it seemed like there was slightly more interest in the power to the people. That being said, the city felt very similar as the board, that the work that Urban Edge is doing is really, really valuable. And so that was honestly the sort of, I think, what ended up being the deciding factor, because there was a lot of interest from the board as well for Urban Edge. That being said, if the board tonight felt very strongly, we can have that discussion, of course, tonight. if it felt differently from what was the staff proposal.
Thank you. And I also was trying to recall of the city's recommendations, how many of those were reliant on the, meeting the deadline for the solar, okay, for the tax credit, the federal tax credit, if any. I can't recall when I saw the recommendations.
Yeah, Boston Medical Center is related. They're going to implement or install solar PV, which is dependent on the solar tax credit. And then Alston Brighton CDC also has a solar.
Right. Okay, thank you. No more questions.
Thank you. Board Member Stovall.
I just want to thank the staff for all the hard work. And I just wanted to also mention that I was so glad that we were able to split one of the awards in half instead of giving it to this 3 recipients. And I am someone who is for the people. I was so glad to see that the Boys and Girls Club received the money, and some of the other things that some of the other organizations. I'm glad that everybody that I pretty much voted for got their awards. So I'm just grateful. Thank you all for allowing me to take part in it. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Are there any further questions or discussion from the board? All right. Oh, Board Member Ellis.
Sorry, I was having a hard time finding the mute button there. This is not pertaining to this particular cycle right now, but I'm hoping, for a little help from the city in the next cycle. If it's possible to sort of get a sense from board members, what we would like to prioritize. Given that I've been on the board since the inception, along with a few others, I do worry about the perception of how we're sort of thinking about workforce development and funding workforce development. And so I'm just hoping that maybe in the next cycle, we can be able to do, some type of survey that the city can send to us that we can maybe just get a better sense of like what we want to focus on. Because I think this year, with so many new board members, it sort of was a bit of a learning curve for us to all get a sense of where we want to focus on. Nonetheless, we do have a diversity of projects, but just wanting to put that out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Ellis. Any additional board comments? All right. We will now open the meeting to public comment. As a reminder, members of the public, to provide public comment, you can raise your hand or type it in the chat. If you're calling in, you can raise your hand by pressing *9 or email your comments to staff at BERDO@boston.gov. Are there any comments? Okay, great. And thanks also to Allison for the comment in the chat. Is there a motion to approve the city's proposal as is?
So moved.
Motion to second.
Great, thank you. So on the motion to approve the city's proposal as is, I'm going to do a roll call to find out how everyone votes. In favor or opposed, I vote in favor. Board Member Ellis.
In favor.
Board Member Faruqi.
In favor.
Board Member Lattimore.
In favor.
Board Member Stovall.
In favor.
The ayes have it. The motion passes. The Equitable Emissions Investment Fund awards for 2025 have been decided. I think we have tried to express our gratitude to the staff and Diana's party for all the work that went into this. But as a few board members said, I also want to echo, just we had a lot of really strong applications this year. As usual, it's really great to see Boston really leading in terms of innovation and commitment to carbon reduction. And It is frustrating to have a limited amount of funds, but hopefully we will see some of these applicants in future cycles, and really want to thank all the applicants for the time they put into their applications. Board Member Lattimore. Oh, you need to unmute.
Thank you. I would like to also say that should we have more opportunities as a review board for training, I think that in addition to what Member Ellis said about what are we most interested in, I think, using these, I mean, this is my first time because I had to recuse myself from the first round of equitable emission fund applications. So training using these last two cycles perhaps as a tool for us to not only assess what we're interested in, but also to maybe train us on, what we learned from this and how we can, improve our review of these applications. I don't, so I would just put that on the table. If there are training opportunities, I think we've gone through two cycles, and I think for me, it would be helpful to kind of, revisit kind of how we looked at these applications. I think it was a good process. I'm just trying to figure out. There was, like everyone said, so many good applications and so many factors. Is there anything that we can learn about how to, do this in the future? That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. That is a great point, and supported by Board Member Ellis in chat as well.
Just
yeah.
wanted to, sorry, Chair. I think that makes sense. I heard sort of two things. I just want to make sure I captured it. One, sort of focusing on maybe before next year's application cycle, getting a sense from review board members. Is there a specific area that we want to focus on for next year? Perhaps maybe like workforce development, it sounds like could be an interest. And then in addition to that, meeting some agenda time dedicated to reviewing the equitable emissions investment fund sort of application process, and maybe serve that as a training for board members, maybe answer some questions. Anything else? I see board member.
I would slightly amend that piece, the second piece, Diana. I was hoping that it would be a training like we've had before, not necessarily part of a public meeting or review board meeting, but a review board training where we take these applications and we're able to kind of maybe get trained on, how we approach them, what the, just different ways of thinking about how we make decisions on the applications in a training format as opposed to as part of a review board agenda.
Got it. Okay, that is helpful. More like a technical training.
Yes.
Yeah.
And just to, if I can ask a follow-up question, I think, are you asking like a technical training, like how to evaluate like emissions reductions, or like the technical proposals, or actually like just how to think about how to compare them as you're evaluating?
I think I was thinking maybe a little of both, like to some extent, I'm still trying to myself understand, like, okay, what am I looking at when I see those standard emissions numbers? Then I also feel like there are so many factors, I'm sure with the first round that I recused myself from of applications, and then obviously for me, and sounds like others, this round, there were so many different factors, so many great applications. Is there anything we could think about? Are there any lessons learned? Are there any approaches that we can take from best practices for reviewing these, and technical as well as just general best practice for reviewing these really good applications? So I hope that helps kind of figure it out. A training, I think, would be helpful.
Yeah, that's helpful.
Great. Board Member Faruqi.
Yes, thanks. I support the statement as my colleagues made, and I would also add that particularly if we are wanting to focus more on the labor and workforce piece, it may be helpful to have that be a focus of the training, or one of the focuses of the training, to better understand, so that we can all broaden our knowledge of, the different types of standards and policies that applicants bring to us, both for the fund as well as for the portfolio applications. So I'm happy to follow up about that as we get closer to next year. Thanks.
Thank you. Board Member Ellis.
Yes, just wanting to round out a portion of what I was saying in connection to Board Member Lattimore. It's sort of thinking about like, does this budget actually make sense? You know, we all have very different expertise where I'm looking at things from an admissions and a unit standpoint. And so I know, Diana, you've been helpful to respond to my question from the financial standpoint. And so I think what Board Member Lattimore is getting at is a holistic sort of technical understanding. If I could even reframe it as well, I know the city also sort of provided their own recommendation. I'm very curious as to how you got to those recommendations that you provided us for us to consider. So just wanted to add that additional context from my end in support of what Board Member Lattimore was saying.
Great, thank you. All right, assuming no other comments, we will move on to our fourth item, which is to approve the previous meeting's minutes from September 29th. Are there any questions or comments on the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Great. On the motion to approve the meeting minutes, board members may vote in favor, oppose, or abstain. The board members who are not in attendance and should abstain due to absence are, well, Councilor Coletta Zapata, but Board Member Faruqi. So those in favor, please either unmute and say aye or raise a hand. Aye.
All right.
Great. I think that's all of our eligible votes. So the ayes have it. The minutes have been approved. And I will hand it over to Ziggy for administrative updates.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, the BERDO team has received one new submission for a hardship compliance plan and another resubmission, and we're currently checking them for completeness and hopefully will be sent to the board soon. Also, on September 26th, the BERDO team hosted a webinar on building portfolios and individual compliance schedules, and the recording and slide deck is now up on the BERDO website under previous events. Also, I just want to give one more last reminder about BERDO Fest, which will connect building owners with different experts in decarbonization. Again, the event is free and will be on Thursday, October 23rd from 12 to 6 at RH Humanity in Southie. And the registration link can be found at boston.gov/BERDO-fest. And then also looking at our timeline, if you want to give an update about what's going to happen on October 27th. The cities can provide an update and adopted BERDO regulations, and as well as an update on the Building Decarbonization Advisor Program, which the review board allocated $500,000 from the fund last year to be used towards that program. So one of our colleagues is going to come and just give an update about how that program is doing. And then the next review board meeting is October 27th. Thank you.
I think Hannah.
Yes, I have one other update, which is wanted to share with you all that Boston has been selected as a finalist for the Bloomberg Philanthropies Local Climate Leaders Awards for our work on BERDO and the Equitable Emissions Investment Fund. So congratulations to all of you. This is, I'll put a link in the chat. This is really exciting. We're actually the only North American city to be a finalist in any of the categories. So just wanted to share that and thank you all for the hard work that you do on making BERDO really a leader in centering community in building decarbonization and focusing on equity with our Equitable Emissions Investment Fund. So I know you all put in a lot of work and just wanted to make sure you know that others in the climate space around the world are looking to Boston and recognize the hard work that we're doing to really push the envelope on this. So I'll report back if we are in fact winners of this award.
What is the timeline on the?
It will be announced at the C40 like Climate Mayor Summit on November 4th.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, that is a tremendous honor and so much appreciation for the staff and the city and this administration and Mayor Wu for her leadership on this and everything that you've all done to get us here. So we'll all cross our fingers. We'll cross them again at our next meeting, and then we'll and then it'll be the 4th, I suppose.
Yes, I wish it came with like a big sack of cash also, but I think it is just a recognition award.
That's okay. All right, so let's end on a high note. Ziggy, can I also just ask you, Ziggy resent me the social media kit on the BERDO Fest. If you probably could like to make sure all the board members have that so that we can all share it and maybe see each other in person at BERDO Fest. So is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
I will. Okay, great. Board Member Faruqi beat me to the punch in seconding it. Please raise your hand or unmute to vote on the motion to adjourn the meeting. Board members in favor say aye. So
Aye.
1, 2, 3,
Aye.
4. Great. The ayes have it. The motion passes. This meeting is adjourned at 6:18 p.m. We had a really big agenda today and a really great conversation and also ending a few minutes early. So thank you, everybody.
Good night.
Bye.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.